everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. We kick off Belmont Stakes Week at beautiful Belmont Park with race number 3 on Thursday. It's Thursday's DRF race of the day, the Grade 2 $200,000 Wonder Again. These are 3-year-old fillies going 1.125 on the inner turf. Let's take a peek at this field. Scan the QR code for race of the day access on your mobile device, and you can view race of the day past performances on the race of the day event page at drf.com. Take a peek. Handicap along with us. And when you've made your final determinations, you can bet this nice card with your DRF Bets account, which of course includes free formulator past performances. We're expecting a little bit of wet weather in New York this week. The number 5, Tap the Faith, is listed main track only. Consumer Spending, 1 over a yielding going at Saratoga in her second lifetime start. It seems like she can run on anything.
Yeah, it does. She was a good 2-year-old, but more than anything else, Dan, it just kind of feels like she took a pretty big step forward in her 3-year-old debut for a barn that's just been going red hot since the start of the year.
The key to this race should be the pace scenario, however. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector, and I would throw up a blue if I was handicapping this. This race might favor horses on or near the lead because I just don't see speed. Vergara, the number 6, is expected to take up the running. She's never been on the lead in the pace call in any of her races. Skims, the number 7, who's expected to be second, was next to last in the early portion of the Appalachian last time out at Keeneland. There doesn't seem to be a lot of gas in this race.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll see. I can't imagine they'd be going fast in here early. Vergara certainly wants to be forward in her races, as you've already pointed out. She's never been on the lead. She does tend to race, pretty close. I do think she's coming out of a Hilltop, Dan, that was run at a pretty solid pace, and she was close to it. Yeah, I think she could make the lead. After that, we'll just see, how far away some of these other horses wind up being early.
The trainer Christophe Clement has both the number 1 Shad Nation and the number 2 My Risky Affair, 2 promising horses. They're probably going to have to step up and show their 8+ games if they're going to win this race. Shad Nation recently ran 3rd in an allowance race at Keeneland. We're going to take a peek at that performance right now. It was her second start of the year, following sort of an even performance in the Sanibel Island, and she did take a step forward in this spot. Now, she was with Lasix in this race. Lasix off, obviously, in the graded races in New York.
Yeah, she runs fine in here. Never a real threat to the 1-2 finishers. And, overall, she had a pretty good trip in this race. But you can see the horse on the lead there just wired the field, never stopping, never giving this field a chance in the stretch. But Shad Nation ran fine, Dan. I don't know. I guess the question with her going forward is she ever going to, really improve? If you go back to her career debut here at Belmont last year, I thought she ran really, really well that day. She looked like a really good horse winning. And since then, it just doesn't feel like she's improved all that much. I can still hold out some hope for this horse. I wouldn't hold out hope against this field at the 5-1 morning line, but maybe she'll drift.
The 2 is My Risky Affair, and this 1.125 distance can be demanding for these lightly raced 3-year-old fillies. It shouldn't bother My Risky Affair, who splashed home in an off-turf maiden race going 1.125. The race will show you right now. My Risky Affair just missed in her prior start over good going at Keeneland in a maiden race. In this race, she faced a bunch of turf horses, and she was simply too good.
Yeah, I mean, she just galloped away from this. You can see everybody else just really struggling with the going behind her. And she's just going to run up the score on this field as a very heavy favorite. She certainly looks good winning, but I don't know, what that means as they switch back to turf with her. Now, I do think the distance is fine, and I do think she ran, pretty well in her only turf start to date. Dan, she didn't win that day. I thought she ran okay in that race, though. There's some upside here.
Morning line favorites, the 3, Consumer Spending, and why not? She won the Salima last year at Laurel, taking advantage of a red-hot pace up front and probably a little bit of a weaker field than she'll be facing here. She ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. She ran okay in that day, and then last time out in the Memories of Silver, she did this. It was her first start of the year, and she faced a very good horse. She faced the horse that beat her in the Breeders' Cup, Pizza Bianca. It's not like there was a ton of speed in this race, Mike. They went 50-1. I like how Manny Franco took her to the outside, got her in the clear, and eventually basically rode the cover of Pizza Bianca before turning into the stretch.
Yeah, I felt like Manny Franco and Chad Brown had a plan here. They were just going to follow Pizza Bianca around the track and just see what happens. And here's what happens. They followed her to the stretch. And at the end of the day, they were just a lot better than Pizza Bianca in that race. That was a good performance from Consumer Spending. Again, she was a good 2-year-old. I'm with you. That Salima just felt like, more than anything else, a really good spot for her. But I thought she ran really well in that race. And then she got beat less than 2 lengths at the Breeders' Cup. This is a good horse, and she's the one to beat in this race.
And she's probably the best closer in this race. If they don't go fast and they're bunched up turning into the stretch, it might just come down to who has the best kick, and consumer spending might be the one. The 4 is Sweet Sensation. This is a horse who's trying the stakes ranks for the first time for trainer Tom Albertrani. Just didn't really fire last time out, Mike. It was a very wide trip and a $50,000 starter allowance, but she must prove that she can step against stakes competition.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like she's in over her head. The one turf start last time against starter allowance horses here at Belmont. I mean, she never even made her presence felt in that race. They did just take her back to last at the start in that spot, but I don't think that necessarily compromised her that much, Dan. She just never really made her presence felt in that race, and now it feels like she's in way over her head.
Clement trains the number 5, Tap the Faith, who has entered main track only in this race. So we'll move on to the 6, Vergara, going out for Graham Motion. And Motion found a very interesting spot for her seasonal debut. It was a synthetic race, the Bourbonnette Oaks. She drew a lousy outside post position. She was wide going into the first turn, and I just don't think she cared for the surface. She bounced back with a decent performance in the Hilltop, most recently at Pimlico. We're going to watch that race. The first is at a flat mile, Mike, and there was a good pace going on, as you mentioned early. She stayed relatively close, and she stayed on pretty gamely to finish third behind Pizza Bianca and Consumer Spending, 2 talented horses.
I thought she ran okay in here. You saw at the upper stretch there, Dan. That was Pizza Bianca just sort of moving right past her with no problem. But Vergara stays on really gamely here. She does not get left. She's actually just going to miss second, trying to get back up there at the end of the race. I thought she ran pretty well. I think the mile could be a little short for her too. Just because when you go back and watch her last year, I mean, Motion stretched this horse out from 5.5 to 1.125 miles in her second career start. And more than anything else, when you watch that race, then it didn't come back fast, but she just stayed in that race and would not let those horses that were trying to close into the race. I think she wants more distance. She's going to be perhaps on the lead all alone in this race. And I'll tell you what, if she gets loose and can get away with some softer fractions, they'll have a tough time running her down. I think she's underrated.
I think that's a great point about the distance, because I feel the same way. She seems to just keep grinding, and that could work at 1.125 miles, especially with the trip she's projected to get. We know Luis Saez can be aggressive leaving the stalls. Skims is the number 7. This is a daughter of Frankel, who won her seasonal debut at Tampa Bay Downs. Now, she was heavily favored in that race. She was able to get close to the pace, and she was very game to win down towards the inside. She was tested for class last time out in the Appalachian. Let's watch that race now. She got bumped from the gate, and then she got bumped again in between horses on the first turn over this good going. I didn't think they were going very fast. She's still in between horses. Eventually, Flavien Prat's going to dive down to the inside, and she'll end up running third behind the 2 favorites. While I think Spenderella, the winner of this race, is very good, I wish this race has come back a little bit stronger from the others.
Yeah, that's kind of true. We'll see. I think this is a good field, at least as far as the 1-2 finishers are concerned. You mentioned Spenderella just could be anything at this point. Dolce Zell did come back and lose on Belmont or on Derby weekend at Churchill, but she did not get a good trip in that race. I don't know. I thought Skims ran well in that spot that we just watched, Dan, and I actually think she's run well in all 4 of her starts so far. The race at Tampa that you mentioned off the layup, just really fresh off the bench in that race. Her rider had a hard time getting her to settle down. She did that a lot better last time. I don't know. I just think she's good. She's probably going to be a decent price in this race. I think she's a major contender.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We are underway on Belmont Stakes Week. Lots of great content coming up on DRF TV. Top pick time for the Wonder again. It is your Thursday race of the day. Consumer Spending just kicks hard in the stretch, and she was going to be very, very tough if she brings her A game.
Yeah, I think she probably will. I just took her, Dan. I don't, necessarily feel like she's, has a huge edge over this field. I think she's good, but I think there are other good horses in here too. I have no problem with your horse Skims. I think she's going to be tough. I almost put Vergara on top just because of the trip and the distance. I guess I'm mostly 3-6 in this race, but I think it's actually a pretty good race.
I'm not sure what to think of Skims' running style, because you mentioned she was very fresh at Tampa Bay 2 starts back, and she was pulling a little bit at the back of the pack last time out at Keeneland. Maybe that works against her if she gets too fresh here, but if she can break from the gate and relax, I think a good spot is coming, sitting second or third, getting the jump on a horse like Consumer Spending. 7-3-1-2 for me, 3-6-7-1 for Mike. It's the grade 2 Wonder again. 3 stakes races at Belmont on Thursday. Good luck.